Hi, Dr. Pfeiffer. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
I would love for you to introduce yourself, and then I have a ton of questions about your upcoming course and how you're just kind of bringing that information over to our network.
I look forward to talking about it.
Wonderful. So, Dr. Pfeiffer, can you tell us a little bit about where you are and the population that you serve?
Yes, so I am a licensed psychologist and I focus on doing work related to complex PTSD and other trauma and stressor related outcomes. I work especially with communities of color and folks who have been historically underserved in the field of mental health. I'm physically located in Richmond, Virginia, but I'm able to see clients all throughout the United States with SNIPACT.
Wow, fantastic. And can you tell us a little bit about the course that you're bringing over to Touchstone?
Yes, I'm really excited to have the second experience to do a course that focuses on the ethical imperative and some of the ethical underpinnings of having inclusion and identity informed processes as a part of every aspect of perinatal mental health care. So rather than looking at culture or identity or sexual identity or gender identity as a separate consideration off to itself, I like to be able to weave all aspects of who we are and how that impacts how we feel and function, especially during that perinatal period.
And what made you feel like this particular topic was relevant to our community?
So I think when we look at a lot of our training and a lot of the background that we get, there are significant gaps first in postpartum and perinatal mental health period. It's not usually a core area of training that we get a lot of experience in our graduate classrooms or in our practicum or applied experiences. And then when we add on the layer of thinking and considering the complexity of folks' identities, really taking an intersectional and a process by which clients are able to share the complexity of who they are with us, that's another area that there's a gap. And so I felt like bringing that to the Touchstone community, we're able to bring together a very thoughtful, intentional community of providers who are interested in not only doing perinatal mental health care at the surface level, but who are interested in digging into how can we be as effective as possible with as many people as possible. And I think that as a part of that, we really need to know how to consider identity in thoughtful, critical, applied ways. So that's what the training is all about.
I see a lot of consultees, and I'm wondering what I can share with them about what they will gain from coming to your training. Because fangirl myself. Um, because I could not attend your training live, I'm getting ready to do it because you also have that self-paced.
Mhm.
So I just want to continue to um, make sure that people know the value of your training and why they should be considering this.
Oh, yeah. That's a really good question. I'm glad that you asked. So, number one, first off, the training is going to be very active and hands on. I know that for me, when I come to a training, I want something that I can automatically implement as part of my clinical practice. And so that's what the training is about. It's case study based. We're able to go through role plays, review specific tools and approaches that will benefit your practice in very concrete ways. Second off, what I think is really important about this training is it helps to create that sense of building the process by which we're able to continue this work on our own. So rather than being really specific, we're often talking about what can we do at a process and skill-based level to continue to learn in these areas when it comes to considering culture, equity, and inclusion in perinatal mental health care. And three, I think it's beneficial that it comes with an ethics-based credit for many of our different continuing education credits. And it's the type of ethical course where we're considering how does doing this type of work intersect with and help us be more ethical, more excellent, more thoughtful providers. I think that those are three benefits that I see to the training and that I really try to embed within it.
Are there common questions that you get about ethical questions in practice?
Yes, I think that ethical questions arise constantly as part of our clinical work, and even really digging into the nuance of what ethical practice looks like when you're in the meat of the work and not just thinking about it theoretically. When we're seeing the sort of gray area of ethical practice and our lived experiences of being providers. And so I find that being able to think about the ethics embedded within inclusive care is a really interesting layer of ethical practice that maybe some of us haven't had as many conversations about. But one of the things that the training does is looks at the core elements of our different ethics codes that govern the way that we practice, and seeing how considering identity is a key part, for instance, of respect and autonomy for our clients, justice seeking, doing no harm, or having that approach of benefits. So how do we start to conceptualize our equity work and our inclusion work, not as like a separate consideration off to the side, but at the heart of us being able to be effective, ethical providers?
Oh, I want to take now all of your courses. Are there any other considerations, or when you're thinking about the people who would most benefit from your course, who should we be recommending this course to? So I kind of think, because I have my own opinions, that it should be everyone. We should always be thinking about ethics and inclusion. But how would you recommend your ideal audience for this?
Yes. So this training was made with folks in mind who come from across the spectrum of engaging with these topics. So it may be that you are earlier on in the process of considering cultural competency or identity informed processes as part of your clinical work. And it can meet you where you are at that 100 level, that entry level of coming into it. And the goal is to have it be low barrier, have it be a space where you feel comfortable asking questions and diving into some of the uncertainty that's inherent in this work, really. And then there's also a place for folks who have been doing this work in an ongoing way and already have demonstrated a commitment and bring some skills to the table as well to continue to dig deeper into that work, because we know it's lifelong. And I think that the major criteria is a willingness and a desire to learn more about what this even is and how to continue to do it well. So if you're curious about what identity informed approaches to mental health or perinatal mental health are and what it would look like to do that in practice, and you're interested in tools to be able to serve the broad communities that we work with, because really everybody has an identity. And oftentimes I think when we're considering culturally informed practice, there is a habit of thinking that this might not just be for historically marginalized or minoritized folks. But really, when we're thinking about the complexity of who people are, where they come from, what their family status and income is, and all of these intersections coming together, it's going to impact their mental health. It's going to impact what their postpartum and parenting journey looks like. And if we have the tools and skills to be able to engage with clients in that nuanced way, then they're going to have better outcomes.
I think that that's so important for people who are dealing with the populations that we're working with. And also, I'm curious as to how you're encouraging people to be curious about that, because I find that there's a lot of, in our society that is not necessarily so kind. There's a lot of call out, but there's not a lot of call in. And so, one of the things that I've been doing in sharing your training with people is to say, hey, this is a time for a conversation. Let's hear this conversation and see how it can enhance our practice.
Mhm. Yes. And I think that's an important differentiation and distinguishing. This isn't a space where people are getting called out or where it's pointing and taking a deficit-based approach. It really is showing, and the title points to the fact, the ethical imperative of considering our client's identity. And I would wager that most people who come to the training are already considering the background and role of identity in the clients that they're working with. It's unavoidable. As you're from the beginning of the first time that you're doing an intake and taking a client's history, you're trying to situate their experiences, their symptoms, what their presenting concerns are within their context of who they are and where they came from. That in and of itself is an identity informed approach. And what I'm encouraging through this training is, let's get better at doing that well. Let's get better at conceptualizing our clients, screening, using assessment tools, and developing treatment protocols and approaches to our work that continues to embed a sense and awareness of who our clients are into everything that we do. So the space of, really this isn't the training where folks are getting called out. It is a sort of workshop for us to continue to hone our abilities to do this type of work well.
I love that. And I love that because I feel like in the greater therapist community, sometimes people ask questions and they're very well meaning. And then they sometimes get feedback that is not necessarily helpful. So I love the fact that you're creating this space where people can be curious and ask questions and grow their confidence in the skills that they're providing for their clients.
Yeah, that's the definite goal. A space that encourages vulnerability, the ability to make mistakes, because that's an inherent part of growth and learning. And if we take a perfectionistic, very narrow path to being able to develop these skills, then it can be challenging for us to see progress. And I think that this is the exact space where people should be able to come to be able to learn and to be imperfect, because training is that purpose. It's a learning space, it's a training space. And I'm willingly coming in to do that work and be a part of the process. So this is the exact space to come and be vulnerable. Maybe, not on a comment thread on social media, right? But you might get mixed results there. But a training where you are coming with peers who all have that same aim of developing our skills in the area, it's coming to the right place.
I love that. I love that you have shared your expertise with us. I love that you're providing this space where we can be imperfect, and that I feel like that's the only way that we can learn, right? To have this vulnerability and this shared desire to do what's best for our clients. So, Dr. Pfeiffer, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for sipping some Tuesday tea with us.
Yes. Cheers. Little Tuesday tea. And I appreciate you cultivating the space. And of course, and I'm always grateful for Touchstone for holding this wonderful frame for us all to learn and grow together. And I'm excited to see people in a couple of months to dig into this work and for us really to get to play and grow together.
Thank you. Take good care.